5 months ago, these were the unforgettable images of the Memorial Day weekend flash flood near Wimberley. Jonathan McComb, his wife Lara, his 6-year-old son Andrew, and 4-year-old daughter Leighton were staying there with a few other families. Like so much else, the riverside house they shared was swept away by a wall of water that came down the Blanco River.
Welcome to Going Rogue with Lara Logan. My guest today is someone you've probably not heard of, but when you hear his story, I'd be shocked if you ever forgot him. It is a story of such hope and inspiration, but also so much pain that it is truly unforgettable. And you, Jonathan McComb, you would probably hate this, but to everyone who hears your story and meets you, you are the definition of a hero. But every hero I've ever known hates that word applied to them, and I'm sure that makes you uncomfortable, and you would object ferociously.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so you are a Texas native.
Yes, ma'am.
And we are sitting here because of the Texas floods.
Yes, ma'am.
Your story did not begin with this flood in Kerrville that took so many lives. Mm-hmm. That came on July 4th in the middle of the night and surprised everybody with its ferocity and its violence. Your story began more than a decade ago, 2015, in the floods in Wimberley, which is also in Central Texas, not that far away from where we are now.
No, not far at all.
And of course, you know, there's a number of people noticed the work that you were doing because your story is well known still to many people in Texas. But you were out there in these floods helping with the recovery efforts and now helping counsel families who have lost their loved ones. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sense at this point how many, what the death toll is at the moment?
I don't. I don't really watch the count. I just know there's still work to be done here in Kerrville and around the state for families, and so I'm there to help do that.
You know, when this kind of thing happens, obviously it hits the news when it first starts and it gets a lot of attention. And it seems today like things fade away really fast. Is that how it feels to you?
It does, and so for those that are going through it, it almost seems like their lives are on pause right now. At least that was my feeling after what I went through in Wimberley. That you know, you can pull up to a stoplight or go to the grocery store, and you know everybody's still going about their daily lives, and you just feel like you're standing there still, and nobody recognizes the pain and the fight that's going on inside your head and heart as you stand there and watch everybody go by. So it's a difficult time for the ones that are going through what they're going through.
It's almost like anyone who's, you know, when you lose somebody that you love, it's almost like everything stops and you don't understand why the world doesn't stop with you.
Correct. Yeah. It's a feeling that I certainly don't ever want to feel again. And I wish that nobody else felt. But it is going to happen again through different tragedies, through different events. And so it's unfortunate.
So let's, to help people understand who you are, mm-hmm. what you've been through, why you're sitting here today, let's go back to 2015, to the floods in Wimberley. You were with your wife mm-hmm. and your children.
Correct.
Your 4-year-old daughter and your 6-year-old son.
Yep.
And tell me what happened.
So it was, Memorial weekend, and so we were going up there to stay in some friends' cabins with them and their parents. And so we all went up and we'd heard about this place for years and years and years, and we just never were able to make it. And it was our 10-year anniversary, and we were actually supposed to be in Mexico with another group of friends. But I said, let's stay here and not, leave the kids and with my parents and go somewhere. Let's go to the river and hang out and have a good time. And so that's what we did. And so we go up there and we got there a little bit late. Lara and the kids went earlier on Friday, And then a friend of mine, Randy, and I went up later that evening, and we got there, had dinner, and hung out. And then the next day it was, beautiful sunshine, blue skies, and white puffy clouds. And we were in the river playing all day long and tubing, and the kids were chasing, snakes around the property.
And Tubin's your dog?
No, Maggie was our dog. Just Tubing was just going down the river. Tubing. And
okay.
So we would let them. I mean, it was just an everyday occurrence for folks that are on the river. And so that was actually our first time ever to be there in Wimberley was that weekend.
And it's tubing in the summertime, being on the river. It's a big part of the Texas Hill Country.
Correct. Yeah, I mean
everybody does it.
Everybody does it. Everybody does it. And you see people, and the house that they have, we were staying at, is on the river, and so all day long there you just see people tubing by and having a good time and with friends and family, and so it was nothing out of the ordinary at all that was going on. And then at night, it never rained on us, and then. That evening while we were cooking and barbecuing, it would rain a little bit and then stop, and rain a little bit and stop. But it was never
heavy rain.
Something that we were going to be worried about at all.
We all have a lot of choices for cell phone service, and it feels like there are new ones that are popping up all the time. But for me, there's only one company that stands in the gap for every American that believes freedom is worth fighting for. And that company is Patriot Mobile. The good news is you can switch to Patriot Mobile today without sacrificing quality or service. And if you're worried about coverage, don't be. Patriot Mobile uses all 3 major US networks. So if you have service in this country today, you'll have as good or better coverage with Patriot Mobile. And if you think switching is a hassle, it's not. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade if you want. Patriot Mobile has a team that is based in the US, will get you activated in minutes from the comfort of your own home. And if you're stuck in a contract or you owe money on your phones, don't worry. Patriot Mobile now has a contract buyout program. This is how we win, by aligning our spending with our values. Every dollar we spend matters. So go to patriotmobile.com/Lara or call 972-PATRIOT. And use promo code LARA, that's LARA, just to get a free month of service. Switch today, that's patriotmobile.com/Lara, or call 972-PATRIOT. Well, that's another thing that happens up in the summertime in the Hill Country. I mean, this is where I live, so you're used to it raining on and off. That's not uncommon at all.
Right. And so, and this being, I'm from Corpus, down on the coast, and so, being in the Hill Country was, all you hear is tubing and rivers, and I was never. You're always aware of a little bit of a flood, but you never think about it, and I certainly didn't that weekend, and so that night, after everybody went to bed and Randy and I were still up, we were down below the house. The house was on stilts, probably 10 foot in the air, big concrete pillars, and we were down there, and you could see the water, moving a little faster in the river, but so we had flashlights out and looking at it. Still inside the banks, nothing out of the ordinary, and then it did come over the banks, and then it came up towards the house, and so at that point I said, okay, let's get out of here, and his father-in-law had told us, move some stuff. There's kind of a ledge inside the garage where you put the lawnmower up and put, other things, because they are used to flooding there, and that's what that ledge is for, so they don't lose anything. And so we did all that, and I said, but it was coming up, and we went inside to get everybody awake and say, hey, let's get out of here. And when we did, by the time we got back out, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe max, there was water all the way around the house, and there was no escaping after that.
That's just, it's hard to imagine. This is in the pitch dark?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Does that make it more, it sounds terrifying.
At that point, we still had electricity. And so I was thinking of ways to try and get everybody out. And so I actually went back on the side of the house where the current wasn't really working, and I could go inside the garage, and I grabbed a water hose or from the patio or something like that, and I was going to put it on a tree limb and then make it to my truck, and then make like a safety line and everybody out. And so I can remember standing on the air conditioner unit outside the house as water was, going across it, and I couldn't get the other end of the water hose back to me to tie it off or do anything. And so he said, Randy said, come back inside, and pulled me inside with my shorts. And right about that time, something hit the air conditioner unit, and that was gone. And then very shortly after that is when the power went out. And then right after that is whenever we were all back in the living room, kind of sitting like we are now in chairs and sofas and big. The only thing I can think of, it was a big cedar tree that hit the side, or cypress tree that hit the side of the house and knocked it off the foundation. And then we were now floating in the middle of the river in this 2-story house going downriver.
The night of May 23rd, Hays County 911 timestamped Lara McComb's phone call at 11:11 p.m. She confirmed her family was at their rented vacation property on Deer Crossing Road in Wimberley. By then, the Blanco River had been rising for more than 2.5 hours.
And you said it's in your second floor?
It's coming up to the second floor. I mean, it's so high up.
Okay.
And we have no exit out of it.
Okay, well, just make sure you don't go to the attic so you don't get stuck, okay?
Okay.
But I will get them out there as soon as I can.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
18 minutes later, an emergency dispatcher answered a call from a panicked woman who said their house was down and floating. The call would suddenly cut out.
It's just, it's so stressful. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's stressful to listen to your story and think about it and think about what it would be like. I mean, I'm a mom,
mm-hmm.
And I know what it is when your kids look at you when they're scared. Mm-hmm. And usually, you're always able to tell them it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And so once we were floating, now Randy and I had flashlights in the windows looking downriver to see what we were going to hit. And the next thing in between our path was the Ranch Road 12 bridge. And we hit the bridge, and there was just enough room in between the top of the water and the bottom of the bridge for one story. So the second story was knocked off, and there wasn't even hardly a blip of moment. Slow down just for a second, and then the whole top just comes off and on top of you, and 2x4s and glass and everything breaking, and so.
Oh my word!
So at that point, you kind of do a count of who all's there, and at that point, Sue, our friend's mother-in-law, was missing, and so I could hear from the back of our debris pile, screams of help, and so I crawled across all the debris and pulled her, or tried to get her up, because the back wall was still up, but I was reaching through a window and held on to her, and then just lost grip, being wet, and then the debris building up in between us, and I couldn't hold on. And so I had to go back to the pile where we were, which was, it would get bigger, it'd get smaller as we traveled. And then shortly after that, we hit a tree that split the cabin in half. And then I never saw my friends Randy and Michelle and their son Will after that. And so it was just Lara, Andrew, and Leighton, and myself, and Ralph Carey, who owned the house, and our dog Maggie. And so at that point, I made the decision to throw Maggie off the pile, because I didn't want her to be taking up room for any human life. And so we continued downriver, and as we were traveling through these monster waves, whitewater, I can remember, Ralph was in the front corner, and we were all kind of sitting on a single mattress, and he falls off, and after we went through some water, and you hear him yelling for help, and so I crawled over and was able to put my arms under his shoulders to bring him back to the middle of the pile, and I can remember him, just sitting there and kind of apologizing. I said, there's nothing to be sorry about, nothing to be sorry about. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Just stay together, and we hit some more white water the whole time. The only time you really see anything is lightning at this point. At this point, it's now raining,
Yeah.
and we hit some more white water, and and kind of wipe my eyes and come to, and he's missing, Ralph. And so at this point, it's just myself, Lara, and Andrew, and Leighton.
And when you say we hit whitewater, what is waves breaking over you?
Waves.
What causes that? Is it just?
It's just the velocity of the water
yeah.
and different depths of water, just like as you see in movies, whitewater rafting. I mean, that's kind of what it is, but at night, where you can't see to prepare.
And it's raining on you.
And yes,
there's
ma'am.
Debris.
Mm-hmm. And so at that point, we hit some more. I mean, you're in it constantly, just this whitewater. I mean, it feels like you're in a washing machine.
And there's things coming at you all the time, trees and
right, and you're kind of flowing with everything. So it's not like, you're stopped and it's hitting you. You're kind of going with the whole debris pile, and so we hit some more water and come to, and I do a count, and I see Lara and Leighton, and I don't see my son Andrew anymore. And but I hear from the back of the debris pile, "Daddy, help me! Daddy, help me!" That's what he was yelling. And so I go back there, and I grab him, and we both get knocked off, and holding on to him, and I lose grip of him, and then that's the last I see anybody. After that, and so. At that point, I'm now by myself, just floating down the river, not on a debris pile, not anywhere, not struggling to stay afloat and alive, and wanting to go find the rest of my family, and you trying to figure out what's going on, and knowing that they're probably not going to make it, but I have to make it to go try and find them, and I can remember in the middle of the river, all of a sudden. I look right to my left, and my dog is right next to me in the river. And I look at her for just a second and just think, what are you doing here? Let's go find them. And then I don't see her again. And so I struggle and struggle and struggle. And I can remember at one point there was a cypress tree in the middle of the river, probably was on the bank at some point. I don't know, but it was still upright. And it was moving so fast that I couldn't get out of the way of hitting it. I can remember hitting that cypress tree real hard, and it turning me around and just putting me under the water. And so I kind of just went into this spin of upside down. You didn't know, right side up, left side, right side, and struggling as much as I can. And I can remember coming up to catch a breath and catching just a little bit of breath. And as I was doing that, it sucked me back down. And so I, couldn't breathe at this point. It was just water in my lungs and struggling. And I decided, God, I'm done. I don't want to live, and I want to be with my family. And so I, at that point, gave up underwater. And I prayed, and I said, God, I want to go home to all my family. And He answered me, and that was with a rock or something super hard on the left side of my head, and hit my head real hard, and just kind of, the white lights are flashing, in your head. And I said, okay, well, if I'm going to get out of here to tell your story, then I need your help. And so at that point, I came back up and started trying to survive again, and went kind of into a mode of, I can remember growing up, going to Colorado and whitewater rafting, and if you fall out of the raft, you cross your legs and hold your arms out, stay above water and feet downstream. And so I did that, and I thought, well, if I'm going to stay above water, I need to hold on to something that's going to keep me above water. So I held on to this big cypress tree going downriver, and I can remember at that point, I didn't know it was a cypress tree, and it was the slickest thing I've ever felt in my life. I mean, I could barely hold on to it because it was so slick, and it was just a log. And then I remember seeing another log that was split, and I said, let me get in the middle of that log so that anything coming behind me will hit that, anything in front of me will hit this, and I'm protected, and I could rest a little bit. And so I did that, and then just kind of rested and thought to myself. And I never went from okay, I'm to do this, and then this is the end result. It was always, let me do 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to the end
right
result.
In front of me.
Yeah. And so then I said, okay, now I've got a little energy back at this point. And at this point, I have one river shoe on after being trapped in one of those debris piles and coming out of it, and my swim trunks, and that was it. And I said, if I'm going to get out of this river, I need to hold on to something that's stationary to get me to the side. And so I let go of my safety net, this log, to let the water push me to the side a little bit. And I grabbed the first limb, and I can remember just snapping it straight off as soon as I grabbed it, and kept going. Next limb I grabbed, I said, I'm not letting go of it, and I didn't. And that was tough. But I remember grabbing it thinking this tree was standing upright. Well, once I started crawling through it to get to the bank, I could tell that it was already laid over, and I could feel the root ball coming up out of the water to go down.
I saw lots of trees like that in Kerrville.
And so I crawl through, and I think to myself, okay, I'm on the bank. Here's a bunch of ground. And so I just kind of, laid down, and it was just the bark floating on top of the water in this cove. And so back in the water, and then I make it to the side eventually. And where I am is kind of a peninsula. I can't go to the right, can't go to the left, and I look behind me, and it's just a straight up cliff. And so I now have to scale this cliff up to get out of the river. And so I start crawling up, and I'm probably 15 or 20 feet up, and I fall back to the bottom.
Oh my word!
And then I move down a little bit, and I start scaling it again, and slip and fall back in the water right there on the edge. And so I get back out, and I prayed again, and I said, God, if I'm gonna get out of here to tell your story, I need your help. Let's do this and do it one more time. And so I crawled back up and was able to. I can remember at one point I'm just kind of on this cliff's edge, and I go to jump up on this ledge to get in this little cave.
Yeah.
And I realize I can't jump. My knees and legs are so messed up, and that I have to just wiggle my way up there, and so I make it to the very edge, and I just lay on it and let my skin grab all the rock to stop me from sliding back. And I crawl in this little nook, and I tried to yell because across the river I could see a light on at somebody's house. Long ways away, but I tried to yell, and I couldn't. It hurt too bad to yell. And I said, I'm just going to stay here until they come find me tomorrow. And but at that point, I was shaking so bad from knowing what I'd just been through, knowing what happened to my family, and then also because I was freezing cold. I knew that if I stayed there, that I'd probably die of hypothermia.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got to keep going. And so I, look out either side of this little indention, and I see this one little bush hanging over the edge. And so I make my way over there sideways and grab a hold of this bush. And it had I don't know what bush it was, but it had a great root system, but it was all serrated leaves and edges, and I just grabbed it and just wouldn't let go, and make it up on top, and then for some reason I see a blue like folding chair, like a bag beach chair.
Yeah.
And I thought, why is this chair up here? And I said, somebody brought this chair here. That means there's a trail around here. That means there's a house around here. So let me figure all this out. And so I start looking for this trail. And
Are you away from the water now?
I'm probably 60 foot up from the river now, 50 foot up. And the river's below me.
That's how far you had to climb?
Mm-hmm. And
did the bush with all those leaves, did that cut you up?
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't bleeding, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I try and find this trail, and I find it, and I can remember that all of a sudden I slipped and fell and started sliding back down, and I grabbed the tree limb, and from there I didn't let go until I got all the way to the people's house. It was kind of a switchback all the way up, and it was another 80 yards or so up the hill, I ended up waking them up, and they didn't know that it was flooding. And
my word!
and so they
Did
I
you
knocked
beat on the door?
Yeah, I did. And there was fortunately that weekend. This is their weekend home, and so they happened to be there, and they were at a dog competition, and so they have all these dogs, like jumping and swimming dogs for retrieving, and these dogs in the kennels in the garage. So I bang on the door thinking it's the front door. Well, it's the door to the garage. So all the dogs
went nuts.
Start barking, and then everybody else starts waking up, and they come down, and they said, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "I came from, the river." And there was like, "There's no way you came from the river right there." And I said, "I did." And
my word!
And so at that point, they put me in some sweatpants and a sweater, and she made me drink a lot of water, and started asking me questions of answers that she would know, political questions or just something. She had some medical background. Allison's her name, fantastic lady, and
just to sort of get a sense of
Yep.
whether you were
whether it was wrong, what was wrong with my head,
Yeah.
and answered all the answers correctly, and told them every single person in the house, their age, everything, and while we waited for the ambulance, which took about an hour, I guess, to get there.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I don't recall a whole lot about the entire night. I can recall all the details, but I don't know any time.
Well, the big story out of Wimberley tonight, in addition to all the damage and the cleanup, people are still missing there. We're hearing reports of a family from Corpus Christi visiting another family. One dad was found downriver, badly hurt, but his wife, 2 other couples, and 3 kids still missing at this hour. And these are not the only ones missing.
It sounds like it was like interminable. Like it just didn't end. It went on and on and
Right.
on. We're talking hours.
No, so all of that, from what they tell me, was about a 45-minute trip.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so for me to go through all of that,
All of that was that quick.
and so I came out from where I started to where I came out was 11 miles downriver. And so, yeah, it was, they were saying the water was moving at, 40 miles an hour, that I was in. So it was moving pretty quickly.
That's extraordinary that you can remember all of that.
Well, I take that as a blessing, and a gift from God to know that I did everything in my power, to be with my family and to try and save my family. I think if I wouldn't have known what happened,
Yeah.
then I would feel differently.
Why?
Because I would have questioned myself, did I do everything I could? Mm-hmm. But I know that I did everything and anything to save them.
It's like, you're like Superman. I know you don't feel that way, but how you did that, how you survived that, there's no words for that.
Well, I think that's where, your faith and Jesus comes in, because that's the only person that could have helped me out. I look back and that limb hanging off the tree that didn't break, that's his hand reaching out, I got you. That bush that had a little bush but a big root, that was Jesus. Hold on to me. I'll pull you up.
This is a tough question, but I have to ask. Like, how do you reconcile that with there being no tree for your daughter or your son or your wife?
I think that, God was with them every step of the way. And they were, the second they weren't here was the second they were in heaven, immediate.
So you're not angry?
I can't be angry. I can't be angry.
Were you ever angry?
Sure. I was angry. I went back and I threw rocks and cussed at the river and, questioned God, and I was mad at God, but I know that that's not how you can stay. And that's through myself growing up in the church and the faith that has been instilled in me and my parents, taking me to church and the things that I've learned and know that, we're only here for a little while. And, we're never guaranteed tomorrow anyways. And so, in the conversations that I had prior to Wimberley with my family, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to see him again in heaven.
What conversations? What do you mean?
We'd have conversations at dinner all the time. I can remember Andrew, my 6-year-old, who lost one of his good friends from a heart a hole in his heart, that they didn't detect and passed away. And so I can remember him saying, I want to get to heaven. I want to go see, his friend. And I said, we're going to go to heaven, but you have to have, you got to, ask Jesus into your heart and soul as your Lord and Savior to get there. But we're going to go, but you got to, and that little boy looks at you and says, I got Jesus in my heart. I want to go to heaven, or Scarlett, not Scarlett, but Leighton, sitting there saying the same thing. I want to go do that. I have Jesus in my heart. We're all going to go. We're all going to get there. We're not getting there right now. And conversations with my wife, Lara, both of us traveled a lot and said that if anything ever happened to either one of us, that number one, you take care of the kids, and number two, you go find love again and be happy. And so I had a lot of these conversations, which I don't know if most parents do. And so
I don't think most parents do.
And I'm blessed to know that because there were some other tragedies that I know through some friends that we had already talked about certain things and different accidents where they lost their kids, and so it was always a point that Lara and I talked about our faith and sharing it with the kids and praying every night and praying at bed and praying at dinner, and so that's. I'm proud of the way that we raised them, and I know for sure that I'm going to see him again.
What was it like for her? I mean, how did Lara handle it up until the point when you lost her? She's scared, and like we all were, but very much there was a calmness. Trying to keep the kids calm and together, and so it was very motherly until the very end. What do you think made you so strong? I mean, even though I know it's hard for you to recognize anything like that about yourself. There's not every guy's going to be able to do what you did in that moment, in those moments.
I think you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could have done any of that prior, but I think it's the will to survive and the will to, see your family again. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, there was never any thought of me sitting here with you having a podcast. There was a thought of me seeing my family again, and it's never been, what's happening 10 years down the road. It's happening, what do I need to do today? Mm. What do I need to do? And after the event and, me getting out of the hospital and searching and being out there and slowly recovering, our families and friends that, you kind of start leaning on your faith a lot more and listening to those conversations you had with them prior and you move forward. And but it was a long road, and
was it a long road?
It was, and so I mean, to this day, we still have not located Leighton, my little 4-year-old, and so, but throughout this time, I've also been, again, I call them gifts from God, that He allows me to know that I'm okay. One of them, a huge part of that was, I go home and if anyone with kids, you want silence at the house. And then I go home and that's all I have is silence. There's nobody next to me. There's nobody going down the hallway. There's nothing. And we're still back up here quite a bit in Wimberley searching. And so
each month, the Texas Search and Rescue crews go out along the Blanco River with specialized canines and search equipment. And Easter weekend, the hope Jonathan needed, Andrew's baby blanket found in debris 10 months later.
I mean, nothing.
I can't believe it doesn't have a tear or anything.
Yeah,
It's good, isn't it?
perfect condition.
And even more amazing, only found 10 feet from where Laura's body was found a year ago. Mother and son never far apart.
Who found your wife?
A group of volunteers, yeah, and
your son Andrew.
Some other volunteers, mm-hmm. And when I spoke at the their memorial, you know, I said that, you know, Lara was found in the most beautiful place in Hayes County on this gentleman's property that was super manicured and perfect, just like she was, and that Andrew was found at the park where kids used to play and have fun and cook out and be with their families. And, you know, Leighton's favorite game is hide and go seek, but the problem with hide and go seek is you find the other person, you know where they are, but I know where she is right now, and she's in heaven. And so it's good to know all that. And when I was finally back at home asleep, I was asleep one night, which didn't come very often, and I had this dream, and not everybody has this dream, and I wish they did, but they don't, and how they deal with things. But I was asleep, and I can very vividly remember a dream of Lara and Andrew playing in the background, like the movies, you know, and green grass and hills and blue skies, and Leighton's talking to me. And I said, you know, Leighton, where are you? You know, where are you? We're looking for you. And with her beautiful smile, she just says, you know, I'm okay, Daddy. You know, I got picked up by a man in the river. And I was like, you know, who's that man in the river? And she just goes, you know, Jesus. Jesus picked me up, and I'm okay. Wow.
How long afterwards did that happen?
That was several months after. But we continued to look and search, and it was, I think it was 2 years after. Like I said, we still have not located her, but we took some heavy equipment down to the river, and we're digging some stuff out very scientifically, and I found her blanket.
2 years? Mm-hmm. 2 years later, you went back still? Mm-hmm. Wow. And did she have a blanket with her?
Yeah, I mean, she had a blanket with her at the house. I mean, and so I have, they found Andrew's blanket, I found Leighton's blanket, and then we found some stuff, you know.
What'd you do with that?
So they are both very cleaned, and they're in my safe at the house. Wow. And so, but again, if I wouldn't have found the blanket, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because of me knowing where they are.
Yeah. I know that you didn't change things. You kept things the same in the house for a long time. How long?
Long time. I mean, didn't do anything for a while. I know that, I was still, even as I've been very blessed to get married again, and we just moved up to the hill country in Driftwood Easter weekend, and so that's 10 years later. I mean, there was still stuff that I had to deal with 10 years later.
Yeah. It took my sister and I 10 years. Actually, I have to be honest, it took my sister 10 years. I still couldn't do it to move my mom's things. Mm-hmm. So everything stayed there for 10 years.
And so, there's things that I've kept. I mean, but I know that, you know, this doesn't, you know, mean they're coming back. I mean, I don't need to keep every single piece of paper from their school, but there is significant things that I've kept to hold on to, and that's what I've done. So, and I know that as I was going through this, that all our friends and family were going through this too, and so, you know, let them be a part of it. I would let them come, you know, like for Lara's clothes, all her girlfriends got to come and pick out a shirt or a piece of jewelry or something that would help carry on her memories and honor her, and so but it took a long time.
What was she like?
Wonderful. She was awesome. I mean, light of my world.
How'd you two meet?
So we met. She was still in college at UT, and I was graduated, and there was a bunch of guys that were together down in Port Aransas, Texas, for 4th of July, actually. And I met her over the weekend, and then realized that I never even got her phone number, and had to track her down, and and so it was kind of a.
You seem pretty resourceful, John.
Yeah, and so tracked her down.
Surviving a flood, tracking down a girl.
Yeah, and so did that, and she was still going to college there, and I just started working at a ranch, kind of halfway in between Austin and Corpus, and so it worked out for me to go back and forth quite a bit, and
what were you doing when working on a ranch? What do you actually do?
We were, managing the ranch for their wildlife and cattle and everything else. So ranch work.
And now what do you do?
So now I just moved up to here, and we have I still have a roll-off dumpster company in Corpus Christi, and then I'm getting into ranch real estate.
You're getting back into that, huh?
Real estate side of it, not
not the managing.
Yeah, not. I'm not
side.
cutting down mesquite trees except at our place now.
And that's pretty amazing that you got married again, and now you have a daughter, Scarlett. Right?
Scarlett, yes, ma'am.
And how old is she?
5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. She's awesome. Definitely a blessing. And I was actually set up with Monica from one of my late wife's, Lara's, roommates in college.
So
and
Monica's your new wife.
Monica's my new wife. And
Not so new now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yep.
Yeah,
And
it's been a while.
she's been wonderful. And I can remember one of the first times that we were on a date, and she told me that, I know Lara has your whole heart. I just want a piece of it.
Wow.
And knowing she knew my situation and everything else, and so she took a chance. And I tell people it takes a broken heart for somebody to be able to pour back into it. So she did.
That's amazing. She must be a special woman. Not every woman can do that.
She's incredible. I'm very blessed. Very blessed.
So what was it like for you when you started to hear the reports of flooding on July 4th?
What do I need to do? Pretty much. I mean, sort of a not again deal. And
when did you first kind of realize, oh, this is going to be bad?
When I got a text from my brother. He had texted me at 7 o'clock that morning, and I was still, in bed, and he said, y'all okay? It looks like it's raining up by y'all out west. And I said, I don't know, everything looks fine to me. And I checked the radar, and then friends started texting and back and forth and back and forth, and I started looking at it and realized it was what it was.
I mean, where were you?
In Driftwood.
And what was that? Was it bad around there?
It was raining, but it wasn't. No, I mean it wasn't like that. No, not at all.
But do you have that kind of fear? I mean, anyone who's never been through a flood like you have, you're just wandering through life, right?
Sure.
Not really expecting anything to happen. But now when you get those kind of warnings, are you extra sort of on guard?
No, not really. I mean, I knew that was so far away from us that it wasn't going to affect us. And where we are, we're on a hill, so I mean, I knew there's nothing around us that could affect us.
Yeah, you're not
point.
by the river.
Right? No. And so, but I knew when I finally packed everything up to head that way that it was definitely. I had a lot of phone calls, people calling me, and especially folks from our team headed out there. But the whole time you just have this nervous, anxious feeling inside of you, like, scared, nervous, anxious, but, I need to get there and help those that can't help themselves right now.
Well, and your team, you're part of a group, Texas Rescue.
Search and Rescue.
Search and Rescue.
Texar.
And tell me about them.
It's just an all-volunteer, organized group of search and rescuers that have come together and very organized, qualified and certified to do what we do. And so...
and you get called on by the state, right? You go all over. You respond to things all over Texas.
Yes, ma'am. Law enforcement. So not just... I know there's a lot of focus on flooding right now, but even when the fires were in Bastrop or up in the Panhandle, we're helping, take hay up there for the cattle and livestock, or, if there's a missing person somewhere, they can call us out to help, do a missing persons or a evidence search somewhere for somebody. So we're
pretty much for any kind of disaster that happens in Texas, you guys are
if we're called out by law enforcement. So we're a multiplier of their agency. Correct.
But you're volunteer.
Volunteer.
All of you. How many of you are there?
I don't know how many there are. Several hundred probably. And so there's a survey that goes out and, can you be here? Can you be here? And you reply and take off. Because not everybody can be at every event, but somebody can always be somewhere.
It's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you get involved with Texas Search and Rescue?
So when I was in the hospital during our event, I kind of found out about them. And, I cried in the hospital myself, laying there for multiple reasons. One of the loss of my family, and two, just the humbleness of the thousands that have come out to look for my family, and the organization, the skills, and the people that, risked everything, on our behalf. And so when I heard about them, obviously I didn't know about them earlier, but I wanted to get involved with them afterwards to give back the way I'm doing now.
How do you make the decision to stop looking?
I don't think you ever stop looking. For me, I mean, it was just, I knew that, the resources just didn't need to be doing it anymore. I mean, it wasn't going to bring her back to me. Would it have been nice? 100%. But that doesn't mean she's not where she is now.
Yes.
And so at that point, I said, nobody needs to go back any longer. And so.
How long after? Because there's still a little girl missing from Mystic now, from these floods. And, a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of the volunteers are upset. They feel like they're being sort of, turned away and stopped, but they don't want to stop. People don't want to give up.
Sure. No. And so, again, we get called on by law enforcement to do that. And so I know that for a while, I mean, we needed to get our people back and dogs and canines back to let them rest and heal, because they were, beat up and worn out as we were. And so the second we're called to come back out, then we're going to be there, because, we want to be there. We want to help those families. That's why we're all part of this. And so, I know there will be an ongoing effort to search.
Keep looking.
Correct.
How long? I know you went out 2 years later and found, Leighton's blanket, but how long before you sort of everybody stopped kind of actively looking?
I mean, I think it was probably for my event probably 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and so whenever we would go back, it was based on very scientific data.
Yes.
I mean, so it wasn't like every weekend, every week. It wasn't weeks on end. It was, hey, it could be a weekend, here, and then it could be a weekend 6 months from now. It could be a weekend, because as these weather systems come through and it
they
floods
dislodge
again,
things,
it dislodges things, and so it might reveal something that wasn't seen prior.
Yes.
And so after that, you might get some different detail. Hey, the bend on this river, is no longer there anymore. Okay, well, maybe there's a bend somewhere else. Maybe there's.
That's right.
And so you kind of follow these weather patterns a little bit to, maybe it reveals something else, or somebody found downriver that they're like, hey, this wasn't here a couple weeks ago, but it's here now.
What happens to a body that disappears? Do you think? Why is it? I know, I know in one part of the river here, they had to drain the river and bring in the dogs, and they reacted, and so they then filled it with fresh water again, so the divers could go down, and they found a significant number of bodies buried under silt, like 10 to 12 feet down. I mean, is that what happens? Do you think that sometimes people just get buried in places you can't find them? And how difficult is it for authorities to know exactly how many people are still missing?
I mean, I think they have a pretty good count on it. I mean, I think everybody has been accounted for that needs to be accounted for, that has had some kind of affiliation there. I don't think there's anybody that they've missed, and that's why at the beginning the number was so high until they were able to
stop finding people
and somebody who was at a campground and lost their phone and took off and didn't let anybody know I mean, it takes time to track those people down and find out who they are, and so I think it took a little bit of time for that, which is understandable with with the holiday weekend and the amount of people there. So, and our flood was different because, there was only several houses that washed away, and it's a much different terrain. Here is a lot, more developed, and so there's a lot more housing here. So it's much more concentrated versus where we were, where there's not a lot of houses.
So, I know you get asked this all the time. It is something that is difficult for people to get their heads around. Is how after going through all of that, a lot of people will just run, right? They'll run as far away as they can. But for you to be out there helping to search, was that therapeutic in a way, or is it traumatic, or both?
It's both, for sure. And the reason I do it is because I want to help those that can't help themselves at the moment. And it's a way for me to honor, Lara, Andrew, and Leighton, my friends who didn't make it, and to, hey, keep going. You can do this. You can do this. Go help somebody else. Go help somebody else. And so but yeah, I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, of while I'm there and thinking of the ones I've lost, and but knowing that the hurt that these families are going through now, if I can be a little bit of light in the darkness for them, a little bit of hope.
Yes.
I say this world's full of rocks, and if I can be a balloon to pick somebody up instead of bring them down, then I want to do that.
Does it kind of connect you? I mean, in a way, keep you connected to them?
I don't think I need another flood to happen for me to be connected to them at all. I could be anywhere and think of them and be connected. I don't think this being in a flood or being in a different event connects me any more to them than I already am. And so it's more of wanting to help those.
Listening to what you went through and going down there and seeing the force of it, just the way the water was able to take these massive trees and just toss them, and the RVs that were just obliterated and in little pieces and wrapped around steel wheelbases wrapped around trees. You just have a sense of the force of that water. Is that what it feels like when you're in it?
Not really, because I know it's rough and it's, very traumatic for sure. I mean, it's not a smooth ride at all, but it's you're going with the speed of the water. So you don't know, really, how turbulent it really is until you're actually under it, or kind of getting tossed around with it. It's I say it's kind of like, skydiving. You don't know that you're falling until you get real close, you're just kind of floating there and you don't know the speed you're going. So I didn't know until somebody told me that I was, going 40 miles an hour
fast
down the river. Had no clue. And, but they said it's basically the same speed as the water going over the Niagara Falls.
Can you see anything?
No, especially not at night. The only time I even knew that the river was so big was when lightning would strike. And then I could see, kind of both sides of me in the middle of this just monstrosity of a wave going downriver.
And when these things happen, there's always people that question, were people warned? Were there flood warnings? Did people do enough? Did the authorities do enough? Those questions are inevitable. How did you feel?
I feel like it was a natural disaster, and it's, not really anybody's fault. I mean, situations can be fixed and solutions come up with, but I'm not going to sit there and point fingers or try and put blame on anybody. I mean, this is, in my opinion, a natural disaster that affected my family, and so I can't be mad at anybody. I can be upset and that they're not here, but I can't be mad at anybody about it. It was nobody's fault.
So tell me what you found when you got to these floods. Where'd you go first? Did you go to Hunt, Ingram, Kerrville?
No, we were at Kerrville in the at a church parking lot somewhere. I don't know wherever the EOC was, the Emergency Management Headquarters, and so
who called you in?
I don't know. I just know that a bunch of Techstar people were there and
Yeah.
showed up, and so I know we have contacts on the inside, and so I don't know exactly the answer to that question.
But it came from law enforcement.
Right. And so at that point we, kind of dispersed and started searching until we ended up getting in boats later that evening.
Can you paint a picture for me what it looked like when you got there? Because you came right down on July 4th.
I did, first day.
Yeah. It was still raining then.
It was still raining. Overcast, rainy, typical rainstorm at this point, and
Yeah.
everything wet and flooded. And at this point, the water had already receded, and so you just see just debris everywhere, and where the water actually came, and you just drive around in awe. Is what I can really describe. Seeing the debris and vehicles and the trees is pretty breathtaking.
The trees are breathtaking, yeah. Terrifying and breathtaking at the same time. Was it worse than you expected?
No.
No, having lived through it. Because a lot of people say that this flood was particularly bad.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're going to compare, there's not really a comparison, but again, this was much more habitat, a lot more people here, a lot more structure, a lot more cars, a lot more
RV park.
debris,
Camping
everything.
grounds.
And so from that standpoint, yes, it was much worse. And the lives lost, obviously, is much worse. But every life loss is terrible.
Does it really matter? Is it helpful to families to know how their loved one died? Does that part of what happens when you recover the bodies is that you can figure out if somebody drowned or were they killed by something else?
I'm not going to speculate on any of that. I don't know. If a flood came through and they passed away, you're going to assume they're at a flood, and I don't think there's, that would be up to them to try and decide if they want to do something else, but that'd be a personal request to them. I know what happened to us, and so there was no reason for me to question anything else.
Yeah. I didn't mean so much question as I guess just answers, really.
No, again, I wasn't, I don't know. I've never had that question asked before. How they, I don't know that.
Because I always wonder, standing there on the riverbank, when I see all that debris and try to imagine and go through my head and try to understand what happens to people in the midst of this wall of water. They said in some places, people think that it was way more than 40 feet, more than 50 feet, more than 60 feet in some parts. And you just...
Yeah, I think the tallest that I heard that was measured, of course this was in between two very steep canyons, was 84 foot.
84 feet. It's unimaginable. And when you see just, it's the power and the force of that water is hard to describe.
Well, and I can remember in Wimberley, as Randy and I were sitting there, where you hear this noise, and you don't know what that noise is, and
Yes.
and I'd never heard it. He'd never heard it, obviously, and didn't know what it was until weeks later. I was talking to the San Marcos Police Department, and their headquarters is on Highway 35, and they heard it as well, and they didn't know what it was until they realized what it was, and it was the cypress trees snapping and coming down the river.
It's so interesting because it's not like a gunshot. It's not like a bomb exploding. You know what I mean?
It's just a
It's not
pop.
like a car accident.
Yeah.
It's a totally different, unique sound.
Yeah.
And you
Very
hear that
unique.
before the water?
Yeah, you hear it all. You just don't know what all these different noises are.
Is
but you
it
hear-
loud?
When I heard it, it was still, so far off. So you hear it, but it wasn't, just so loud that it's, something's coming. You just hear something and you're wondering, what is that? What is that?
I was down there July 5th, right, the next day after these floods, and a lot of the people that I spoke to talked about what they heard. talked about hearing people cry for help and not being able to help them. One woman said she started to run into the river, and then other people pulled her back because she said she just wasn't thinking.
Sure.
And one of the ladies living down there told me that that's the thing that she won't be able to forget was what she heard. A lot of people honking their cars because there were people in their cars, people in cabins. It's kind of crazy to imagine.
Yeah. It's unthinkable. And it's hard to even describe it to anybody who didn't see it or hear it firsthand. To be put in that situation because, until you've been there, you can only imagine. And so it's noises you don't forget, for sure.
Well, now you are helping people, right? You've moved from recovery, from search and rescue into more of a, how would you call it? What would you call it? Kind of a guidance counseling role?
Guidance, counselor, whatever I can be for them in their moment, and to help walk them through and just tell them my experience to where they're not feeling alone in this, that, and that they can make it through, to give them some hope.
Yeah. I mean, I always imagined that I wouldn't want to live without my children. I can't even conceive of that. I always tell them, be safe, or, don't do this or don't do that because I'll never recover. But you stand here as someone who is, you haven't just survived. You haven't just recovered. You found happiness. But
it didn't come without, pain and hurt and my dark times. Everybody, when I go speak at places or on shows or whatever, and a lot of people thought, well, you just, you're a Christian, you came out of this thing. I said, no, that doesn't mean the hurt and the pain wasn't real. That doesn't mean that, that I didn't lay on my couch and have, a bottle of whiskey and a pistol, ready to end my life, because I did. And it was very dark. But I know that God didn't allow me to survive to do that. And it wasn't honoring to him, and it wasn't honoring to my wife and kids and friends to not live for them and to help others. And so,
did you struggle with survivor's guilt?
Yeah, I did. Yes, ma'am. And
why me?
Why me? I've asked that question for a long time. What if? Why me? Why? I've asked all those, and you can certainly go down some pretty deep, dark rabbit holes when you start doing that. And so I don't do that anymore, or try not to. I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, but
do you have to give that to God? Do you have to say it's His decision, not mine?
And that I'm here to do good, and so and I hope I'm doing that.
So I think the only piece that I found was just coming to understand that every life is a gift.
Yeah.
So for a long time I said, why did I lose my mother so young? And now I try to look at it and say, how did I get so lucky to have?
Sure.
I had a great mom, and a lot of people never do.
Right. I can very distinctly remember whenever we were in Wimberley, and we're in the conference room at First Baptist Church, and each family had a detective assigned to them, and whenever everybody got the call to come together, you knew that they were going to give some bad news of recovery of somebody, and I can remember when they walked in, and they look at me, and I'm the guy getting talked to right now, and they say, hey, we recovered Andrew, and I got up and walked out of the conference room, and I went to the back door, opened the door at First Baptist, and got on my knees, and I prayed to God, and it was a prayer of thankfulness. Thank you, God, for giving me Andrew for 6 years. Thank you for the smiles and the laughter and the fishing trips and hunting trips and everything. So
I don't know why it always seems to happen to the happiest marriages and the best and the best families. You see some people struggle through life and struggle through bad relationships that they can't get out of, and yet the ones that are truly meant to be and always seem the ones to go.
One of Lara always wanted to. Her question was, how do we get more people to church? How do we get more people to church? And I can remember at the memorial, I said, look, Lara, it's full, and
she had all those people there,
and she did, and so and to this day, I think still is turning people to the Lord.
Well,
and
should probably get a few more with this. If you can get there,
right.
It's a more peaceful place for sure. It's not without its pain.
Sure.
But it's the Indians have a saying that, or a belief that if you can cross through the period of extreme mourning and loss, that you gain the person back because you can remember them and you can laugh about things. And for 10 years, I couldn't say my mother's name, so my children didn't know her. They never met their grandmother. But once I got there, now they can say to me, oh, your mother would hate that.
For sure.
Because they know her now.
Yeah.
They know her even though they never met her.
And that's one thing, and everybody grieves differently, and that was, one thing I didn't want to do is to not talk about them because I would feel like I'd lose them again,
Yeah.
And so I've always told stories of Lara and Andrew and Leighton and things they did or things they didn't do, and the friends that I had around me and family, I mean, to this day are still texting on all their birthdays, and throughout the year, just, a funny picture will come up on their time hop or whatever it is on their phone and send pictures. And so it's, we all went through this together. And so we all hurt together, we all heal together, we all help each other. And I think that's the way that it should be. You shouldn't have to go at this alone. And so, having my faith and God in my corner and friends and family pushing my back, I'm here with you today.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. Takes an incredible strength, obviously deep faith, because I don't think you could do it without God.
100%. And you at the very beginning you said, people say you're a hero, and I said this at the memorial. I said, a lot of people told me that, and I said, I'm not a hero. I said, I'm just the mailman delivering a message.
I want to bring in here somebody that the person who introduced us, my partner and co-host and creative director and producer, and it's a small company.
Yeah.
We all do a lot of jobs here. Yeah. Luke Coffey. And Luke, I know you have something you want to say.
So, how I met Jonathan was at a time where I needed encouragement from you, man. And so I was doing I was in a bad place in my life. It was 2017, and I just broke up with my fiance and was kind of had this spirit of self-pity, and then Hurricane Harvey hits, and I heard about this story that was happening in Houston, and I was like, I want to go document it. That sounds, this girl I knew was raising money that was to go help down there, and I was like, I want to go document that. That will give me, I had a break between jobs. And so that led me to be on the ground for 30 days plus, following different stories of Hurricane Harvey. So I made my way down to Rockport, Port Aransas, Corpus area 2 different times. And the first time I was told multiple times that you got to go interview Jonathan McComb. He's leading the rescue efforts and recovery efforts. And a year and a half ago, he lost his whole family. And I was like, oh my gosh, because initially it was one story that, I was just going to go cover. And I was just like, God was leading me to these amazing stories. And I was just like, God, do whatever you want. And I had 2 cameras and a drone and my beat up Ford truck that I slept in some nights, and a lot of times slept with people I was covering. I was just gonzo journalism. But I was like, I got to go interview Jonathan McComb. But I went to Orange, and you're just, I think of the verse from Isaiah, beauty from ashes. You know, you are a beautiful picture of that. And why do they choose people like you? It's because you're a reflection of God's glory and how Jesus, you became embodied Jesus, you know, how you've reacted to this. And again, I was, you know, we connected because we'd both gone through, I was about my 10-year anniversary from my accident in LA and losing Elizabeth. And, you know, I was like, I was going to come back to Rockport and Port A. There was a couple other stories, and I was like, I contacted you, and I said, man, can I come interview you? And I had, I said, Lord, I'm going to keep going as long as you want. I still had, like, you know, I could have gone 3 more weeks just covering these stories. It was, you know, became more about what God does through the storms, because it does, when you're brokenhearted, and you know this, you have a different heart for people. You have a bigger heart because you understand and feel that pain. 2 Corinthians 1:3-5 is my life verse. He comforts us in our suffering so we can go and comfort others. Because now we know, you know, and that God uses other people. And so you want to be part of that, you know, that mission. And I just want to say, it was just a time in my life where I was like single, lonely. And I was just like, this guy is, I mean, your faith was just on fire, and there was no self-pity. And you were living in your house, and it was completely like, you know, like it was the day you left for Memorial Day weekend, but you were down there leading the charge, and everybody was looking at you. And that's why God put you in that position. That's why God chose you to survive, because he uses you. He's used you, man. And he's used your family. And as it says, there's a cloud of witnesses that have gone before us. Your mother, Lara, your family, your wife, your 2 kids, and they're championing you and celebrating because it's God through you, the Holy Spirit working through you. And so I just want to say it's incredible. And I never did anything with your documentary. I mean, I was going to call it Through the Storm, you know, because it was the beauty of how God works through brokenness and suffering, and it makes us all of a sudden look at life completely different and eternally, and makes you question, well, what if that was me? What if I was Jonathan McComb and I lost my whole family? You know, I just lost somebody I loved. I didn't lose my kids. I mean, and you and my other buddy here are in a different fraternity that no father or mother wants to be in, and it's losing a child. But I just want to say that it's what God has done through your life, and the redemption story he's told through it is a reflection of what, you know, God can do through the beauty from ashes.
You know, as you say, you know, and what Luke was just talking about in the eye of the storm, I had my Christian music playing whenever Scarlett was delivered, whenever Monica and I had Scarlett, and that song came on randomly in the eye of the storm, and it was awesome. And our labor and delivery doctor, I mean, we got done, and her kids knew Andrew and Leighton, and they were in the same school and class. And so when we delivered, it was, I mean, we turned that delivery room into the church, and
wow.
And I mean, both of us started crying, and we hugged each other, and all the nurses were hugging each other and crying. It was incredible. It was really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Luke, you had a question?
Well, I saw a video when I was kind of going over your story again, where you were speaking to a group, and you just gave some great wisdom and advice just for what life looks like going forward. And we even talked about it at lunch today, that it's not, you mentioned it's moving forward, not.
So, yeah.
And just your advice and wisdom of living big and loving bigger.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of folks said to me, and you hear it after certain events, that, you know, they're trying to encourage somebody to, you know, how kind of to live their life. And they'll say, you know, you just gotta keep moving on. And I said, you know, that's the wrong word. I said, because moving on means you're forgetting about somebody else.
Or leaving them behind.
Yep. And I said, what you need to do is tell them, we just got to move forward. We're going to move forward together, and encourage them that, there's no reason to stop. You can still have all their memories. You can still have all their laughter. You can still have all that with you.
You know what I'm curious about is, on this journey of yours, what have you learned?
What I've learned is to, no regrets. Don't take anything for granted, and to don't sweat the big stuff. Examine the little stuff, but love the big stuff. Don't worry about it, and to really not to take everything so seriously sometimes. That there's still life to live, laughs to give, and because we're never guaranteed for tomorrow.
How long did it take you, do you think, to get to a better place?
I think I'm getting there every day. I think I've been blessed with Monica and Scarlett for sure. I've been blessed with Lara, Andrew, and Leighton. But I've told other folks that have gone through this event that this is kind of how they're going to remember the rest of their life. And I say that because I tell stories, and I don't know why, but most of my stories, they're either, before Wimberley, or after Wimberley. So Wimberley is kind of my mark in
the flood,
my life that changed it forever. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad life. I mean, I think it's the way you react from the situation you've been put in. Don't let the tragedy, determine the rest of your life.
No.
Let the way you react based on the tragedy determine the rest of your life.
Yeah, it gives you some power back. Because in the tragedy, you're powerless, right? But in how you react, you do have power. You do have a say.
And that's the reason I went back a year later after the flood, and I kayaked the river from start to finish, from where the house was until I got out. And like I said, that night it was about a 45-minute trip, and that day, 11 miles downriver, it took us 8 hours.
8 hours. And you did 8 hours in about 45 minutes.
11 miles in 45 minutes.
Sorry. But what I mean is, 11 miles, it took you 8 hours, but you did that in 45 minutes. It's just unbelievable. And from the time the water started to rise, that was also pretty quick, wasn't it?
Real fast. Once it was there was no getting out.
There's been a lot of attention on Camp Mystic because of the girls. And it's completely natural because it's just the worst thing anyone can imagine happening to their child. But along the river, in other places like Sandy Creek, there was just complete devastation, and it hasn't had as much attention. And there was one family that I know of managed to get the two babies in the car, a baby and a toddler, and turned around and the house was gone. Car went its way. And these people, there's just people who have suffered so much and who maybe don't have access to a lot of help. And people feel pretty abandoned. Sure.
No, and even when we were searching, they were like, are y'all looking for the Mystic Girls? I said, I'm looking for anybody. I'm here to help everybody. I'm not specifying one group over another. Everybody's important to me, and so, and we didn't really know the magnitude of everything while we were there because. That morning, July 4th, you see it on the news, you're getting these reports, and then we never saw TV for 10 days. Never any other reports other than, from the folks that we were working with. Hey, y'all go look at this section, go here, and search. And so we were out there to do our job and didn't have time to, look at that until I finally got back and, you'd get some texts from people and
sure,
and but you never know what's what's real anyways. And so you kind of just put that to the side and focus and work on a job.
What was the worst area? What got hit the hardest, do you think?
I mean, I think it was all hit hard. I mean, there's certain aspects of every inch of that river that, is different from the inch before. And so, I mean, I've worked all the way from, at the very headwaters all the way down to, Comfort. So, I mean, the whole stretch has its own challenges.
Do you have a sense of what made it so devastating? What made the water rise so much?
No. I mean, I think it's just the hill country, and it's prone to flooding. And I mean, there's not a lot of soil around here, so it's like pouring a water bottle down the driveway. There's nowhere for it to stick, and it just slides off. So, I mean, that's what happened. It's not that anybody did anything wrong to make it flood. That's just nature.
No, there's been talk of sort of the fact that there was two rivers coming together. Did that make a difference?
I mean, I'm no meteorologist, and so I'm not going to talk on what ifs and what can be or how it could have happened or this or that. I mean, it was a lot of rain in a short amount of time, and things just converged and rose, and so it's just unfortunate.
What's your sense of how long it'll take to clean up from this and then forward from that to recover? I mean,
years, decades. I mean, it'll never be the same.
No.
Mm-mm. I mean, the landscape has been changed for sure in our lifetime and probably our kids' lifetime. I mean, those trees that were knocked down were, hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of years old. So, they were huge.
I mean, even going back to Wimberley now and up in that area, I mean, there's just huge gaps of no trees or anything now because they all got knocked down. So a river that used to be very shaded by a lot of the cypress trees is now open water, and so that's what's going to happen here.
What did you not expect when you came here? I mean, you've seen a lot of floods now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seen a lot of disasters.
Kind of everything I expected to see, I saw. Nothing really surprised me because I knew that people were going to be here. I knew the love that was going to show up, and so Texas is a good place to be, and there's a lot of beautiful people here, and they're going to help all those get through this dark time.
Did you? Do you have any sense of how many volunteers there were? I know it was hundreds, but
thousands. It was. I mean, and a volunteer isn't just somebody who's on a search and rescue team or in the river looking, or just a spontaneous searcher. It's the towns were full of people that were barbecuing and handing out food and bug spray, and the convenience stores that were getting behind it saying, hey, if you're part of this group, you get free ice, you get free coffee, you get free sodas.
People were opening up their homes for people to stay.
I'm going to a gentleman's house right after this that I walked on his property, and I said, hey, is it okay if we, I'm search and rescue, can we walk behind your house on the river? And he said, no problem. And he ended up housing 15 of our search and rescue group, and his house was where we were sending supplies and everything. So he got involved because he happened to be living on the river. And so I'm going to go visit him and say hello to him. And you meet unfortunately, you meet a lot of wonderful people and see hearts that are just overflowing with help.
What do people need now?
Each other. They need each other to not forget, and they won't. But the ones that have been through this, they need a support system because the first month is still full of adrenaline, and there's a lot of movement around them. And but as today, as I dropped off Scarlett for the first time in kindergarten this morning, kids are going back to school, but these families, some of their kids aren't. And again, we're talking about any of the kids, but there's a lot of people that passed away on this event. But there's a lot of people that today is a terrible day for them
Yes.
because of that, or whenever their school starts. I can remember when school started for Andrew and Layton, and I didn't have anybody to take there, and how hard that was. And so they need support.
There was a little girl who lost her whole family. I wonder what it's, for you as an adult. I always think for me as an adult, the trauma that I went through, being attacked and gang raped, I always think I had lived a lot at that point. I had a lot of, had a good foundation of love and wisdom and things, right? When you're just a child.
Yeah. I hurt for them.
A lot of hurt for a lot of years.
Lots of hurt. A lot.
So I wonder, there is a sense that people have that FEMA and these organizations are not, they don't really know. I hear from a lot of people who don't know where to go, don't know how to get help, or have asked and are not getting much, and feel like the media is not, interested, and the government is not really helping. Where do you advise people to go? Do you have any idea?
I don't even know that. That's a question that I've never.
Yeah, because
entertained.
was a holiday home kind of thing,
Right.
that belonged to someone else, but
Yeah.
people have lost their own homes and their
Yeah.
own businesses and everything.
And so I don't know. I mean, I did hear that there was, I don't know what they're going to end up doing or how it's going to affect them, because it's tragic for them. I mean, this was their dream home, their lifelong dream to live where they are, and they've lost it all. And if they have insurance, wonderful. If they don't, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's a totally different struggle.
Aspect of it, yeah. So what lies ahead for you?
For me, I mean, can continue to love and support families that have been through this, and continue to train and continue to wake up and take my little girl to school, and
No more children?
no more. We had her, and we're very blessed, and it just wasn't in our cards to have any more, and so we're very fortunate and blessed to have her.
And are you going to keep doing search and rescue?
Yes, ma'am.
For a long time, I guess. I get the sense.
And until they don't want me.
What is it? What does it mean to you? What does it do for you?
It's a sense of, it's a totally different sense of accomplishment, to be able to give back in such a capacity like that. And so, and I try to, even through the classes that I take, that I'll be going through again here next month. There's some new folks that will come into our team, and I always like at the end of our classes to, let them know, hey, the reason you're doing this is because of folks like me. When I was laying in the hospital, that you were there because I couldn't be. And so when you're out here training, I want to thank you from a customer standpoint versus a, comrade, someone who's next to you.
Jonathan, it is quite breathtaking to talk to you and hear your story. I so appreciate it. So grateful to know that if something happens to me, there's, or in my family, there's people like you that are out there.
Well, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of mailmen out there delivering the message.
Yeah. So thank you for watching this episode of Going Rogue with Lara Logan. And, like, share, subscribe. Where can people find you? You want them to support Texas Search and Rescue?
They can support them. They can support Kerr County. They can, support whatever their local church, however they want to be involved.
And if people want to sign up?
You can certainly go to the Texar website, and there's ways to.
Yeah, I went on the website. You do training. You do all kinds of things, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that your wife is very proud of you, and your daughter, when she grows up, is she's got dad in a million.
Yeah. She's a special one. Yeah.
Thank you for watching Going Rogue with Lara Logan. If you want to volunteer, you can join Texas Search and Rescue. You can look at their website and see what they have and all the things that they've done. I've been on there. It's a great website. You can see all the stories, right, of people on there. Sure. It is, it's a hard thing, but it's also a great thing, the best and the worst.
Yeah.
And look forward to staying across, keeping track of your progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I won't need to call on you.
Hopefully not.
Because with you comes the disaster.
Yes.
And the blessings. I'm Lara Logan. Thank you for going rogue.